The purpose of government is to create an opportunity for people to be free. That is, to me, the heart of American exceptionalism, not the how of how we implement that ideal. I've stood up over here for conservative principles. I've fought and I've led across the board on every issue, and I've been able to win a lot of tough elections. If you look at the record is one of accomplishment of conservative principles and the ability to articulate that and get votes across the aisle. I was one of those guys who would be putting up the big cuts, the $500 billion cuts, and saying, we need to go further. And you need folks like that. You need people that's going to put pressure on the other side so we can get as aggressive a deal as possible.
I look at almost every issue that we deal with in this country has a moral component to it, and so to divorce a moral component to the debt burden that we're leaving the next generation, the tax structure, to how we spend our money in Washington, how we value human life. I mean, all of those things, to me, interrelate. They're not separate issues.
In 2008, I think the American people, wanted a president who they could believe in. And I think after 2 years of that, what they've realized is America needs a president that believes in them.
What Obamacare does is shift this fundamental belief of our founders, that our country was created to make sure that people are free. To me, it's a game changer, and it has to be stopped. It's the most important issue that faces this country right now. I think anybody that would suggest that we call a truce on the moral issues doesn't understand what America is all about. America is a country that is based on this concept, on the Declaration of Independence, that we are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights. Rights come from God, and the first of which is life, the second of which is liberty. Those two concepts really transformed the world, because it said that government was going to be limited, allow people to be free, and to pursue their own dreams, to serve their God and to serve their family and community. That is only possible if we have strong families. My father came to this country when he was 8 years old. And when I used to go visit my grandparents, my grandmother didn't speak English. And I always used to ask my dad, "Dad, why don't you teach me Italian?" He said, "Because you're an American, and you need to learn the English language. That's the language of success in America." I know a little bit about beating unbeatable Democratic incumbents. When I ran for the House, I was up against a Democratic incumbent who had gotten 60% in the every election since his first. I beat him. Second election, I got redistricted into a district that was 72% Democrat against a 22-year incumbent. And he left before he wanted to fight against me, and I won that district. So that's the second incumbent I took out of Congress. The third, 1994, ran against an incumbent who'd just beaten the sitting Attorney General by 10 points a couple years before. In a state with over 500,000 more registered Democrats and Republicans, I beat him. 3 Democratic incumbents. You want someone who can beat Democratic incumbents in tough times? A lot of people up here can check the boxes and say they have conservative positions, but I've led on every one, from social conservative issues, on life and marriage, and I've got the arrows in my back from the mainstream media to prove it. I've been out front on national security issues. I've been out front with your colleague here and my former colleague Jim DeMint on Social Security, on Medicare, on welfare reform. I led on welfare reform, ended the only federal entitlement we've ever ended that I'm aware of. I was the one that carried the water on that. It's not just checking the boxes, it's having the courage to lead.